Now, like last month, we had 3 people come forward and say about their sightings the first time. Zach being one of them, we appreciate it. So it's coming out more and more. It's being accepted by a lot of people, and just feel easy with it.
Okay.
Michael, I'll let you go ahead and ask any questions you want, or whatever. You started off.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think
I had to write down my account
That's all right.
because it's still, even though it's been 50 years, it's still traumatic.
if you would,
And-
Maggie, and to tell your name and everything,
Okay.
to let people know in the video.
My name is Linda Sigman, and I live in Coolville, Ohio. I grew up in Meigs County, and my hometown was Pomeroy, which is right across the Ohio River from Mason, West Virginia. And I was born in Mason, West Virginia, and that's where I ended up having my UFO sighting. So I wrote down what happened that day. I was 16 years old, not afraid of anything, a little bit crazy. The Mothman had been seen prior to my experience, but I didn't tell what I saw because my father told me to keep my mouth shut, that people would think we were crazy. So I'd like to read to you what I wrote down, and then if you have any questions, even in the middle of this, please raise your hand or speak up or something. I'd be glad to answer.
Is the lighting all right, Linda?
Thank you. It happened April 18, 1967, and I was 16 years old. And I grew up in Pomeroy, Ohio, and our house sat along the Ohio River, about 50 yards from the old Pomeroy Mason Bridge. On this map, it would be like clear in the corner, on the right-hand corner is the bridge.
Over here?
Down in the bottom, clear in the bottom,
here.
that's it right there. Now our house was right below that. Now if you go straight up, it says first sighting. First sighting, there's a star. Okay, over to your left.
You know what, I'd like to try.
Want me to go up there and do it?
No, stay right here. Stay right here.
Okay.
Still work?
I had another map.
Take this, it should still reach my...
It's a pointer. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, it's okay.
we've got a pointer.
A mouse. Okay, right here.
It is work.
Right here's the bridge. Here's where I grew up. Right here is the town of Pomeroy. And directly across, this is the river. Please excuse my art. Directly across the river is Mason City, West Virginia. Right now there's a Walmart that sits right here, but when I grew up, there wasn't anything but a couple of gas stations and the like right there. There is Wahama High School, which plays a part in this, and it's right here where I'm pointing. Okay. I was born October 10, 1950. At the time of my UFO sighting, the entire area was abuzz with the talk of Mothman, and we called it the Bird. And gangs of teenagers used to gather at the old TNT area in Point Pleasant. It was an old musician's plant. During World War II, they made TNT. Now, if you follow the river down this way from Mason, you go directly into Point Pleasant, which is about a 20-minute drive. And the TNT area lies directly into the Chief Cornstalk hunting area. It had several old abandoned buildings and igloos, which were used to hold the materials manufactured there. I heard that there were underground tunnels in the TNT area which connected the plant with Point Pleasant, which was a few miles away. And they used to move the explosives underground, as I understand, the tunnels reached from the TNT area where the Mothman was seen a lot. And the tunnels moved from the TNT area clear into Point Pleasant, along down to the river, and that's where they would load them onto the boats and ship them
Was that for safety or
for
security?
safety. And so, because, when I found it out, I thought, well, there was never no big trucks or anything that would come along and move the stuff. We never saw any movement out of that area. We never had any reason to go down there. But this was during World War II that they did it, but they never took it out. And everything's still down there except the plant. It's gone. But when Mothman was here, the plant was still there. On April 18, 1967, my boyfriend at the time, who lived in Mason, which is right there, invited me to go and check out the field he had helped bale the hay that afternoon.
Sure he did.
He said it was on top of a hill and we could see out for miles all over the town and we could look for the Mothman. And it's like, yeah, right. Of course, I jumped at the chance. He drove a blue 57 Chevy at the time, and we didn't have seat belts, so, you just get in, you get out, and go. We drove to a spot around 7:30 p.m. We went across the bridge down here and followed the road. Mason, we had rode a horse. He had horses, and we had rode a horse out this road partway before, so I was kind of familiar with this road. And there were several little farms that this road went right between. And so we went out here, and we stopped in this hayfield right here. And it was just a tangle of country roads, which weren't traveled very often. A couple of farms and parts of old strip mining buildings. And we reached the top of the hill to our destination. We got out of the car, and we walked around a little. You wanted to show me, this area. Of course, this is right on top of a hill, which overlooks the river out this way. It was a night kind of like tonight, but it wasn't really full moon, but it was light enough that you could sit there and you could see the stars. It was bright. So I remember him backing in. There is a road right here. You can show the next slide if you want to.
You don't lose that mouse.
Let's see.
If you want to, but you see this down here? You just tap on it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, wow.
This is what I saw. He backed into the road and faced out towards the gravel road. I have another map that we'll see in just a minute. And he had a quilt in the back seat, so we grabbed it and put it across the top of the car. And we got out, and we climbed up on the top of the car. And we were just sitting there facing forward on the hill. And it was the hill, this is parallel with the car. We were facing this way. And to our right, parallel with the way the car was parked, was a line of trees, which you see right here. But this was full of trees. There was all kinds, and there weren't any leaves because it was April. It was clear night, and I remember it being peaceful and starlit. And of course, we were just sitting there talking. Oh, yeah. We'd been there for about 10 minutes. I noticed this star. Before I saw this, it was a dot about the size of the marker there. And it would get little and bigger and little and bigger. And then it got large and it appeared white. And suddenly it grew large like this. And I mentioned to him and he said, yeah, I've been watching that for a little bit. And then suddenly it burst into this, which reminded me of a supernova. You see what you might think of as a supernova? It turned red, bright. All this area here just lit up. The sky lit up. There was a few clouds right here. They lit up. And what that reminded me of was something coming from a pinpoint to something very large and explosive.
How fast did it do that?
It wasn't going anywhere, just sitting there.
You say it lit up the sky?
It lit up the sky.
Did it light up the ground or just
No,
the
just
sky?
the sky.
Okay, gotcha.
It just was like, you see a picture of what a supernova or something exploding. That's exactly what I thought. Back then, I didn't know what a supernova was, but now I think about it and I can still remember these things coming out from it like this. And
Was there sound?
no sound, but it was just like it came from a pinpoint, and all of a sudden it came through, which to me, it came through another dimension.
So from the point to the size it is now, how long did it take to, or was it, you think they're different objects?
About 2 minutes.
Did you
It-
see
it-
get larger and larger and larger? or
It
did you-
was small and then larger, and pinpoint and then larger, and then all of a sudden, boom, like this, red, and then it sort of just shrunk down to this ball, like this. All these were gone, and it was white again.
Was it now the size of a star? And
No,
that's unusual?
no, it was big. It was this size to compare to the trees there.
Was
It was,
close to you?
Bigger than the moon?
when you see a full moon, about like that, yeah.
Do you have a sense of how far away from you it was?
Yeah, it was if you think, I think in terms of like football field, so I would say 50 yards.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm sorry, give us the impression of like a pulse.
At first, when it came into where it was coming in, you know, it was like just a star, and then it would, what do they call them, reticulated stars, where you see them and they're the pulse. And a pulsar, it looked like that, and then it just went boom, and there it was. But it did this. And, okay, let's do the next one.
Did you feel threatened?
No, I wasn't scared. I had my boyfriend there. I wasn't scared. That's supposed to go,
Hang on, let me get,
Mike.
she's clicking, but it's not going forward, Michael.
Left button, you click on the left button.
the left one? Okay, I know I was doing the right. Oh, the left button, the left mouse, okay. Sorry, guys. Please bear with me. Oh, that's too far.
Go back and go back one.
Oh, okay. That's what it looked like. Oh,
I hate those disappearing
It's right down
toolbars.
here
They
at the
annoy
bottom.
me.
I'll get you there. Hang on a minute. Left
okay,
button.
all right.
Let go.
You're on 3.
There, that's where I want. Right there. There it is. Okay. Now, down at the bottom, it says First Craft, but that's the trail it went. That's where we were parked, where that little square is, down here.
So is that what you were seeing?
That's what I saw.
Okay.
This is where we came in, right here. Here's the hayfield. We drove in here. We pulled in here. He backed up and parked facing out in case we had to leave, you know. You might want to have to leave real quick. And we were just sitting here on the hood of the car, and there was this thing, and before you know it, there it was, behind the trees. Now this is a road that goes on up over the hill here. That's the old country road. There's all kinds of trees here. I just didn't draw them in.
So this is this object that you said you just saw appear, just like,
It appeared, and the next thing you know, there it was.
so you feel like it was right there behind those trees?
It was,
It wasn't in, like, maybe before?
no, it just grew. It was closer than what we thought.
Was there, like, a background behind it? Like, could you see the trees
Yeah.
behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Did it block out anything like that, trees behind it or anything?
Well, it was up, and then it came down. It was up, and we were talking, it's like, did you see that? And then we turned, and there it was.
On the ground?
No, it's probably treetop, but see, there's some of these trees that are taller, so it's
It
right.
stayed in the sky the whole time.
It stayed in the sky, and then it came down in the tree line.
But it
And-
didn't
It
land on the
remained a
ground.
round ball.
It remained a round ball, and it was white, even though I've got this outline dark, so it'll show up here. But yeah, it remained a round ball. It was just through the trees, moving slowly, making no sound toward the gravel road. It was going this way. I remember him saying we should leave, and of course, I just wanted to stay there and look at it. Because I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get to see something. I wasn't afraid. We jumped off the hood of the car, and I remember standing out there and him opening up the car door and my jumping through on the driver's side, and that quick, there it came. And it came this way. And it came, and it was right above the car. It didn't come through the trees. It came down the road, but it was up like this, you know, and it comes around and it comes here, and it stops right on top of us.
Right over the car?
Right over the car, about this high.
It was still a light.
Still a light, no noise. But this time it was dark, because it was dark under, the object itself was dark. And I leaned out like this and looked up, and it was that close.
Wow.
And it had lights.
How did you feel then? Scared?
I don't think I had time to feel anything.
Came so quick.
It hit me later. As of now, I suffer from it, some post-traumatic stress.
Right.
I'm the type, when there's an emergency, I'm right on it. And I'm not afraid. I'm not, like I was telling him earlier, I'm not afraid of anything. But later it catches up with me. And now, as I'm older, nothing scares me after I saw this. Okay, the next one. Here I go again. Here it is.
Oh,
Now-
my gosh.
It's right over top of us. I'm on the other side. I'm looking out.
So you feel it was flat on the bottom, you think?
Flat on the bottom. I always remember it had this T, like on the bottom. These lights right here, there were 3 of them, and they were white. I could draw a better picture of it than this. This was just real quick this morning, and I thought, I need to draw something. And these were 3 red ones. But it was so close, if you look at the ceiling, that's all the farther up it was. But it made a noise, like a vacuum cleaner. And I told him, I remember saying, it's going to suck us up. It went,
Was there any static electricity?
So it went from a light to being a vehicle. It changed into being,
well,
A
this
ship.
is underneath of it, so I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I was telling Lainey that there might be a little bit of time I don't remember.
You have a basketball above your head and you're looking up, you don't see a small area.
This is, I could not see the sky. I couldn't.
It would look flat.
Would it look flat? Okay. Okay. But this was underneath. Okay. It made that faint sucking noise. It was hard to look at. It was so big, probably 25 feet. Bigger than this room. Bigger. It was so big that I remember telling him, look at it, look at it, look at it.
At least 30 feet in diameter?
Probably 25 to 30, 25. I said, I can't see the stars. You know. The underside had 3 lights, which were white in a row across the bottom, and 3 that went down below it into a T. I remember it looked like a T, and we were terrified at that time, but also curious. So I'm starting to shake, which is not uncommon for me too when I talk about it.
what did he say by this time?
He was just like, I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. He started the car, which I was afraid wouldn't start.
It started
It started right up, and he pulled out and drove this way. We had a ways to go, if you remember how the road was, and went around this way. This is what I saw.
Oh,
Okay.
This is what I saw. This is the outline I saw. And by this time, I'm hanging out the window,
Okay.
going, look at it, look at it. You see that thing? He goes, yeah, I saw it. And I said, no, did you see that flying thing? He said, no, I didn't see any flying thing. I said, there was something flew out of it,
Out of it? Okay.
off of it, with it, that I don't know where it came from.
so it
but
wasn't a vertical thing.
No, it was flying, it was horizontal. It was flying this
You
way.
didn't see any kind of doors or hatches or anything?
No.
Could you see through it?
This at that time was black. It was like it must have turned its lights out. Because although it was, no, you couldn't see through it. Although it was dark, this back here is the skyline above the Ohio River in starlight. And this thing flew down over the hill, and this thing flew out of it.
How you know it was an entity?
It was moving. It had its wings like this, but it had it next to the body. It was leaning like that. Those are the arms.
How big do you think it was?
At least 9 feet long. At least from here. I'm sorry, Pete.
They going in the same direction?
No, this thing was flying. I'll show you here. It took off and went into the trees. Here, this way. That's not a very good, but you know, you get the idea. It flew into the trees, and here we are, and I'm going this way. We get to this corner here, and he almost loses it. And we're fishtailing back and forth, and I'm yelling at that there's the thing. Look at it. And this goes down over the hill, and it's
Okay.
gone.
So is that like maybe an accurate representation of the size of
Yes.
of the
Mhm.
thing compared to the craft?
Yes.
It was big.
So the craft was really not, if it's 9 feet, you're talking maybe the craft might be 20, 25 feet maybe?
Yes. It's big. This is huge. And I'm thinking after I do this, maybe these lights went this way. But then again, when I looked at it, it was a T, and my thought at this time is I was looking at this person thing flying this way. And he's going this way.
It didn't have a head, a
Uh-uh.
separated head.
It was just like you would take a bird and hold it down and slim it out. How its arms would fit against its body, yet it was still attached. I mean, it was no flapping or anything like that. It just was, it was out of there.
When you started driving, was the craft still over the car? Were you able to drive
When
out
we
from
started
under it?
when we started pulling out, it went too. So we're actually right here when it goes over the hill.
When you say it went to, did it go with the car, the
Uh-huh.
same direction?
Yeah, when we pulled this way, it was still going with us. And then it went straight, and we went left, and Mothman, whatever it was, went right into the trees.
People have studied the Mothman, is that their description more or less of what? Everybody know?
Yeah, it is, because Mothman's often described without a neck, and you said you didn't see a
No
neck.
neck, it was just.
He was
Original
like-
drawing.
It goes into a
looked like it
torso.
had any kind of a head or anything, just like eyes
was,
on a body.
Yeah.
These are the, I could draw better pictures than this, because it was fast. This is the arms, and whatever this is, and these were legs. And I could see it because of the light. Like Pete said, when the moon's out, you can see.
Yeah.
The craft went straight down over the hill, and I was hanging out the window to get a better look. That's when I saw the black flying creature, which was either traveling with it, beside it. And a creature I'll call it right now Mothman. And it flew into the line of trees. So we went straight, and I remember saying, "My God, did you see it?" And after I exclaimed to him, he said, "No, I was too busy getting out of there." So we got to the bottom of the hill, down here, where we first came through was an old abandoned strip mine. All of this area here. Kids all used to hang out here, park and party, and there wasn't anybody down there. It was just us. Now when we came down over the hill, we came this way, right here like this, and came down here. This is actually the front of the car right here, which doesn't look very good, but you know. This is a little road that goes back into the old coal tipples and stuff, and this is the way out right here. We sat there for about 10 minutes, and I said, "Oh look, the moon's coming up." but it wasn't the moon. So I said, we better get out of here, there's some cars coming. And it wasn't a car, it was this thing. It was a white ball of light about the size of a Volkswagen. I said, my God, what's that? I said, look, there's another thing coming. He's just sitting there, you know. I didn't have much to say.
It's totally different looking from the.
Third of the size. If you know what a Volkswagen Bug looks like,
Yeah.
that's the size that was. And it was 3 feet off the road. And here comes this thing up over the hill. And it goes this way and this way. And it's moving about like this. No noise. It's not hard to look at. It's bright white light, like fluorescent light. It goes this way and down.
Wasn't translucent, couldn't see through it?
Couldn't see into it. And then it came down this way. And it stopped
Where you were.
where we were, right off of the bumper, so far that you couldn't see the very front of it. It was inches from the bumper of the car. Well, this time I was scared.
I would have had my heart attack.
I'd have been gone. I wouldn't have been able to
And like I said, the moon was due to come up soon. We thought maybe that was it. Well, we were shocked to see it was another one. It was what appeared to be to us a large, not large, but not as big as the other one, bright white ball. And it moved slowly up the gravel road. It hovered about 3 feet off the road. It didn't make any sound. About the size of a Volkswagen, moved slowly up the road to us. And it's up there where we had just pulled off. It stopped for a minute and it turned left and it came directly toward us, and it moved silently until it reached the front of the car right here, and it stopped. And I'm like, let's get out.
get out of the car.
No, I want to get out and look at it. I wanted to get out. I'm 16. I wanted to get out. I'm having my hard time now at my age. Then I wasn't. He's like, no, and he's just sitting there, no. Well, I said, I can't see anything in it. Can you? And he said, no, nothing. And it went, whoop. And when it got about right there, I was on the floorboard. I was underneath here, and it went whoop. And when it got here, the whole car filled with white light. I mean, it was beautiful. And then it went zip. And we just sat there, and I said, what did I say? We got out of the car, and we looked all around, and I can remember getting out on this side and looking this way, and nothing. This way, nothing. This way, nothing. And I said, it's gone. It's gone. And my feelings, I wrote, after the experience as we drove away were, and this was odd, by the time we got back down and across the bridge, started across the bridge, I said, I feel like my brain's been picked. I feel like I've been picked. I feel strange. And I had a sense of awe I'd never felt before. Like I'd really experienced something.
What was the time frame, like from what time did you leave your house and then you got to that hill?
It was-
And when you were coming back home, how much time did you have?
There was an hour and a half. And if you ask me, that didn't take an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's something, because it's either here when that light came, or back here when that thing came over us. We went across the Primary Mason Bridge, and he wanted to take me home, and I said, let's go up the river.
Did you feel that the ball had morphed from the moth?
Oh, maybe from the Mothman, but not from that big thing.
Right.
I think Michael asked me that. Somebody did. that somebody asked me if I thought that maybe that was the Mothman in another form. Was that not you?
Good question.
Oh, who did I talk to?
But you just weren't sure about that. You just saw them separately, so you can only
I can only
guess.
surmise that it
Yeah.
was a separate thing. Okay, here's, let's see. This is where I lived, right here on the river. Here's the bridge. Okay, this is proximity. This is a road into Mason after you get across the bridge.
What was the name of that bridge?
That was the Pomeroy Mason Bridge, and they tore that down and built a new one, what, Kristen, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Same
But
place.
there was a few other houses. There was one here, and there was one here, and our house was right here. And there was a road that went, there was a railroad track that went this way, and there was a road that went under the bridge and out. But our house was right here. And we,
There?
no, it's gone. The new bridge took it out when they built a new one. But we had a big porch on the front, wrapped around here on the front. And this is where I was the first time I saw the big craft. This is the road we went down to the coal mine and sat. That's where I saw the second one. We went to Pomeroy to check it out to see if we could find anything else or see anything. And when we were up here, we saw lights going across the river. But we went across the bridge and back home. After we saw that, we came back down the road. And it doesn't stop there. He took...
When you said you felt your brain had been picked, did he have that same feeling?
Uh-huh. He said, I feel like either something has filled me up with something, or it's a kind of a hard explanation.
You didn't feel drained, did you?
No, exhilarated. More exhilarated than
What
drained.
about your boyfriend?
That's who they're talking about, I think.
We both felt the same when we came across the bridge from experiencing that. I said, I feel like my brain's been picked. He said, I feel funny. He said, I feel like I know things or something's going on. It just like it was a cleansing feeling. I didn't hurt. I wasn't scared anymore.
You know if he's still living?
Yeah, he lives in North Carolina.
Maybe.
When was it that that bridge
experienced something that
collapsed?
They wiped out.
Might have been. The Silver Bridge collapsed December 15, 1967.
So you went from April, it was
April
to
to
December before.
He took me home, and our house had a large porch on the front, and my parents were sitting on the porch. And when we pulled up in the driveway, I said, I'm scared to tell my mom where we were. And he said, you really ought to tell him what you saw. I said, I know. And when we got out of the driveway and were walking up to the porch, my dad was running down. I said, oh gosh, something's wrong. He said, you'll never believe what your mother and I just saw. We were sitting here on the porch, and just a little while ago, this ball came up over Wahama High School and came up and went up over the bridge and went towards Pomeroy. I said, was it small or large? And he said, oh, about the size of a small car, because I remember him saying that. I said, what color was it? And he said then it was yellow. And I said, we saw it, and it was white. And I told him what we saw. The phone was ringing. My phone was ringing. My mother answered the phone. She came out on the porch, and she said, Grandma said, Grandma lives up here. Run out. Look up the river. There's a ball coming down the river. Here. So I don't know if this thing went like this, went up and went around Grandma's and came back, or she was seeing another one at the same time. But at the same time, all three of us saw something.
Did you ever see the big one again,
No,
or the Mothman?
no. Many people in Pomeroy and Mason saw it at the same time I did, and it was on WMPO radio that next morning. I went to school, and there was a set of twins that saw one up above Humroy. They lived up in here, and it was over top of a water tower. Am I doing okay?
Yeah, you can find.
Dad told us not to say anything, that people would think we were crazy. It ran out. So we continued to look for that all summer long. And in October, we drove down below Point Pleasant, down below the TNT area. There's an old mansion that used to be down there. They tore it down, but it was called the Maymore Mansion. And a bunch of us used to go down there and go in that because it had like staircase like Gone with the Wind, and it was beautiful. And so we decided around Halloween we'd go down there. We went down there and parked and walked up through the woods. There was 4 of us. And we got up to the mansion, almost to the house, and there was something over in the woods there that caused big strobing lights. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. So, just wouldn't say. So in December, I went to Point Pleasant to Christmas shop. This is from April, then October, then December. And we used to sit on the Silver Bridge at night. That's the one that fell. And we'd go down there and the bridge would swing, and we'd think it was fun, you know. But that night I went down. When I went across, it wasn't bad, but when I came back, I had to stop in the middle of it, and this was 2 weeks before it fell. And it swung like this.
Were you in a car when you stopped?
In a car.
You stopped in the middle of the bridge.
Stopped in the middle of the bridge, and the bridge would swing. Because it was a suspension bridge, held up by eye bars. And that's what
So you
eventually
stopped
gave
on
way.
purpose so you could have fun while it was
No,
swinging?
I was in traffic.
Oh, okay.
I was in traffic.
Yeah, there's stuff.
So when I went down to Galplis, or Point Pleasant, there was a store down there that I used to go to. It was a dress shop. And I thought I'll go in there and get some gifts. And I remember seeing these guys down there in black suits and black hats. And we had seen them before because they stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, you know, they didn't look like anybody in the area. And everybody around Harmon, Mason, Galplis, and Point Pleasant pretty much knew each other because we all ran around together and stuff. So anyway, I came home, and then and I had a dream the night before the Silver Bridge collapsed. I dreamed there were Christmas packages floating in the river and people screaming. And I can remember hearing this woman going, "God, help me, help me, help me." And there were pieces of metal, and they were all tangled. And I woke up crying and screaming, and that was, I guess, a Thursday night. And I came down to the breakfast table, and I told my mother, I said, I had a horrible dream. And I told her, and she said, "Oh, it was just a dream, don't worry about it." So I went to school, and then the next day was a Friday. And I belonged to a girls' athletic association, and I played volleyball, and we were having a dance, and we were there setting up for the dance and getting ready and everything. And somebody came in, they said, "Silver Bridge has collapsed." And our band that was to come from the Point Pleasant area down below Point Pleasant could possibly have been on that bridge. So no, we didn't have cell phones, so we had no way of knowing whether, you know, they were going to come or what. A little bit later, they came and they said we were in line to get on that bridge, and it collapsed. And so we came up through Point Pleasant, through West Columbia to Henderson to Mason, across the bridge to Pomeroy, into the high school that way. And Kristen asked me, "Did you have your dance?" And I said, "Yeah, we did." But there was it was a twin boy and girl that lost their dad that I knew that fell on the bridge. So to sum it up, I said, as you can tell the way I still shake when I talk about it. I'm still affected by it. And, but I do consider myself chosen, I guess, almost, to have experienced it. And it's kind of therapeutic for me to talk about it. But one thing it's left me with, I have increased psychic ability. And I was telling Cameron that I guess I'm what you call a slider. In the last month, I blew up 2 computers. And I affected my telephone, and I blew up my dryer, my microwave, and
There's somebody in this room.
I
with the same
was
experience.
telling her that we have a member who has the same experience as Nell over there in the corner, very similar to that.
what it is, I think, is just, you know, sometimes you have things in your life, or God gives you, I am a Christian, God gives us gifts, and we can choose to either use them or let them go. And it's like they say, use it or lose it. Excuse me, but we went to Bimini, and it was incredible there. I read people, and she can tell you she was there. And that was about 4 years ago that I really started realizing and letting myself do this. So I try to use it for the greater good.
Have you talked to other groups, have you, Linda? or
No,
This is the first
this is the first time.
How long did your boyfriend stay with, not to talk about your love?
That's okay.
How long did you guys stay friends after the other? Did you just go to
I ended up
school?
marrying him,
Oh, okay.
but he changed.
Yeah.
Over the course of 2 years, he turned into something that I didn't know who it was. Became very abusive, physically and emotionally and mentally abusive to me.
Do you think this could have affected him? You think it did?
Did you talk about it?
No,
That it was, could have been?
no. I didn't talk about it till, oh, I
You
don't
never
know.
met, between the two of you, did you ever talk about that?
No,
That incident, you just
nope.
left it go
Just
that night?
let it go. Because my
Really?
dad, he just, back then, you know, he said, don't tell anybody, keep your mouth shut. You'll have people chasing you and calling us crazy.
Times are changing. Times are
And
changing.
one more thing in closing. I'm sixth generation. My sixth great grandfather is Chief Cornstalk. And he put a curse on Point Pleasant. And after I found that out later, and after I found that out, I thought he was watching after me. That he might have, that might have been why I had that. My boyfriend was 1/4 Cherokee and Shawnee, so.
I'm descended Chief Logan. Chief Logan.
I guess that's all I have if anybody has any questions.
We appreciate it.
That was
And,
wonderful.
Yes, thank you for sharing that.
Any physical illness, do you think, from this thing?
Just from my emotions, I've had a couple close nervous breakdowns because of it. I have a tendency to have post-traumatic stress from it.
But do you have arthritis?
I have arthritis in my hands,
Because a
in my
lot of
joints.
UFO people get see UFOs.
But I think, if anything, it affected me more positively towards psychic ability.
Is there a coal-fired power plant up there near there we were at?
There is now in Galbraith, the Gavin, but it wasn't there. The only thing that was there was that old munitions, is that what you call them? Am I saying that right? Munitions, where they had, I can remember the plants that were still there, where Linda Scarberry and Roger Scarberry were down there and saw Mothman in that plant. That's
Because
true,
it was
they
an
did.
area of interest.
You know what's interesting is you said that you guys were in a blue 57 Chevy. You know that Roger and Linda were in a black 57 Chevy when they saw the Mothman. I thought that was interesting.
Have you ever seen the Mothman Prophecies film? There's a couple that's sitting in a Chevy, and Mothman appears to them, and it kind of
Like
it brought back some
Harkins,
memories.
that's back to that, maybe.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you would know the timetable on this. She had her sightings. There were sightings before.
Yeah.
hers.
Mhm.
When did it start?
Let's see, that was 66. It was 15 months. I think they said 15 months of something.
It
15
ended
months
with the
of,
Silver Bridge collapse?
Basically. And it started with there was UFO reports even before Mothman. That's
right.
when Mothman first came on the scene, they called him the UFO bird.
The great silver bridge that once stood so proud started twisting and bending and roaring so loud.
Friends, this is a tragic but true history about the rise and fall of the Great Silver Bridge. That monster of beauty, as it was called upon completion, spanned the Ohio River between Canoga, Ohio, and Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It was 1/3 of a mile long and had a 700-foot channel span 100 feet above the water level. The Silver Bridge was the first bridge in America of its particular design and the second in the world pioneering in and suspended by heat-treated eye-bar chains. Due to its unusual method of construction, it was proclaimed by many visitors and tourists as the most beautiful bridge across the Ohio River. It was first opened for traffic on May 19, 1928, and dedicated on Memorial Day of the same year. There were 1,800 tons of high-quality steel and 10,000 yards of concrete used in the construction of the Silver Bridge. The original flooring was made of 250,000 feet of California redwood. This later was replaced by grilled steel covered with concrete.
Oh, the great silver bridge, once standing so high, was the pillar of strength reaching into the sky. And
The bridge was painted with aluminum paint, being the first bridge in the world to adopt this protective coating, the bright appearance of which was responsible for its unusual name, the Silver Bridge. For nearly 40 years, the Silver Bridge proudly stood as a gateway to the South. It withstood the ravages of time, but could not withstand the stresses of man forced upon it by the march of progress. At 4:58 p.m. on Friday, December 15, 1967, while lined from end to end with pre-holiday and rush hour traffic, the Great Silver Bridge began to twist and bend and suddenly collapse. It quickly submerged into the icy waters and crashed onto the frozen banks of the Ohio River below, carrying with it many lives and total destruction. Within minutes, the shocking news was flashed around the world. Rescue and salvage operations were initiated, and the inevitable task of facing up to this catastrophe was realized. Yes, friends, that monster of beauty, which stood so proudly for nearly 40 years, in just a matter of seconds on that cold December day, became a monster of death.
yes, that great silver bridge will stand evermore. It brought death and destruction and people by the scores. The nation was shocked, people prayed, many wept, when that monster of beauty became a monster